How's it, punters? Welcome back to the Best Sports Betting Podcast. We've got a action-packed episode again today, talking about all the upcoming sports or talking about the sports results and then upcoming sports for the weekend. The Premier League's back as well, and it's been a pretty interesting weekend of sports. Simon, I was glued to the couch for most of the weekend. I was either playing slots or I was watching sports. What are your thoughts? What did you enjoy the most about the weekend?
Yeah, it was. It was a really, really great weekend of sport, actually, and really nice weather, and it was just a good weekend all around. Yeah, I mean, I think maybe let's start with South Africa and Scotland.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the bookies were quite kind to Scotland by only having them as 5-point underdogs, and I did say that last week. Even though they narrowly beat Australia, I still think 5 points was a little min. But yeah, it was kind of a bit of a cagey start. But I think that as soon as we started dominating set pieces, which has kind of become the Springboks brand, we started piling on the points. And I think Scotland were pretty sloppy, especially when it came to handling errors, and they did give us way too many penalties. But I think in the final 20 minutes, it was very difficult for Scotland to kind
Yeah.
of stay in striking range of us.
Yeah, pretty good performance from the box there. I think the line moved out to about 7.5 before kickoff on that one, and
I did see that.
which was still covered quite comfortably by the box.
Yeah.
Final score was what 30-15 or something like that. So
Yeah, 15 point win. I know it's become such a cliche to say recently, but I think it really rang true for this one. I think our sort of physicality was the difference there. And that line out steal by the box towards the end, when the Scots were deep in our territory was just like, I think, a classic example of why we do actually keep winning games. So yeah, I mean, it's we keep executing on these set pieces flawlessly like that. I think we're going to be a very difficult team to beat.
yeah, we're gonna chat about the England game in the preview section. Then there was also New Zealand going down to Ireland. I watched that one. That was quite a cracker as well.
Yeah.
I fancied New Zealand to win that one. However, Ireland have just continued to beat New Zealand over the years, and a big win for them there. Joe Biden calling the the Irish team to congratulate them. Bugger didn't phone the box though.
Well, we got Prince Harry, so
Yeah,
and Meghan, with all
wah.
fuff in his underwear. So
Yeah,
I don't know if you saw that video. Actually, funny enough, but I'm not quite sure what point of the match it was. But when there was a fan who was right at the front of the the bottom of the stand, right by the field, and he jumped over the barricade and when he's in his speedo and bent over for Sia Khaleesi to sign his bum,
yes,
and
I
then
saw
to
that over on Twitter. Great from Sia to do that. I think that's a
yeah,
very
yeah.
very
That's
cool video
I'm glad he
floating
didn't
around.
get I'm glad he didn't get manhandled by security. I thought
Yeah,
that was pretty good form.
that was
Yeah,
awesome.
that I didn't see any of that Kiwis Island game, but I mean it. Sure, I mean there was a flood of penalties, which I think obviously really helped. Ireland get ahead of them. And I mean, despite Jody Barrett being excellent with the boots, I mean, I was just looking at the stats. He didn't miss a kick. It's obviously quite a nice win by 9 points. And but Joe, you're right. I mean, you look at the history and you think, oh well, gosh, when was the last time Ireland beat New Zealand? But it was actually 3 years ago. wasn't too long ago. So yeah, our Irish somehow have managed to keep a pretty good record against the Kiwis.
Yeah, and the Kiwis are looking very kind of faded after quite a long tour.
Hmm.
So yeah, I wasn't impressed, and that pretty much killed off quite a few of the bets that I had over the weekend.
Yeah.
Was on New Zealand, but we also had the T20 final that I didn't watch the whole thing. I watched the New Zealand innings, and I probably watched about. Okay, I watched most of it. I watched probably about two-thirds. I actually turned off when it was when the result was pretty much was known.
Yeah.
And a huge win for Australia there. I thought the score that New Zealand put up was going to be somewhat competitive. They struggled on their
Yeah.
last couple of overs,
No, it
but
did. Me too. I mean,
Williamson, what a cracking performance from him. Just not enough to get them over the line though.
really good. I mean, if we just quickly go back to the semis, England. I thought England were short. I mean, I said that in the podcast. I thought they were short against New Zealand. You were kind of indifferent about that. I think that I didn't. For them to book their place in the finals was obviously a sort of odds against bet. But I thought there was quite a good chance New Zealand would get there. Um, but in the final, I mean, I think New Zealand set a reasonably good total. I mean, 172, as you said, pretty good. I think that in this World Cup, I think it really, and we've mentioned this before on the podcast. I think that winning the toss is just so important. And I mean, if you look at the stats, nearly 80% of teams batting second won their games in the tournament, which just really goes to show that the toss is super important. But I mean, looking at this game and player performances, I mean, Australia really did play well. I think they saved their best performance for this match. I think obviously played very well to beat us too in the first game. But I mean, Mitchell Marsh, he's been very patchy lately. He played very, very well, and Hazelwood also bowled brilliantly. So I mean, I think if you look at the New Zealand side, I mean, Bolt was probably the only New Zealand bowler who
struggled a bit
didn't.
with the ball.
No, but I mean, he's the only one that didn't get tonked around the park.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, in general, they struggled with the ball.
They did. Yeah, I mean, Southey wasn't his usual self, and I think the rest of the bowlers were all quite expensive too. So yeah, I think it was a well-deserved win for Australia. They've never won the World Cup before, but I must say I'm still very disappointed South Africa couldn't get through, because I think, of course we can take some satisfaction that we only lost to the trophy-winning team, but I think obviously not having India or England make the semi-finals made for maybe a more interesting tournament. I don't know, that's arguable, but yeah, it was. I think it would have been really, really great to be there. And I think South Africa was certainly a top 4 side for sure.
Yeah, and I'd make an argument that that group stage needs to be kind of mixed up a bit. I think it's a little bit harsh when you've got so many powerhouses of cricket in 2 different groups, and
it does.
The top 4 go through basically. It's you almost want to just play a league, a round robin. In that sense, would be a bit fairer.
You're leaving some very, very good teams behind that way, I think.
Yeah, and that's not just me being bitter as a South African, but would it be nice to also have India in the playoffs? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
But talking about disappointment, the Bafana game going down 1-0 to Ghana. I'm not sure if you've seen those highlights, but gosh, that penalty call from the corner that never was.
It was ridiculous. I mean, this corner that never was, and then an extremely, extremely soft penalty. Man, I mean, who knows? I can't even see if he even made contact.
No, from what I've seen, he didn't. So for those who didn't watch it, basically there was a shot at goal, and it hit the side netting, and the keeper was nowhere near it. His hand was outstretched towards it, and they gave the corner from that. And from that resulting corner, the ball came into the box, and like there was I don't even want to call it a shove, because it's like the guy tickled his back. And this is not South African bias here. It was really a tickle, and the guy went down like he was shot.
A sack of potatoes, yeah.
The only thing I can think of is from the referee's perspective, he couldn't quite see what the extent of the contact was. He could, just looking at the replays, you could see the defender's arm going towards him. So I'm assuming he thought the contact was a lot more. But it was very disappointing.
Oh yeah, I mean, I to be honest, I think this has match fixing written all over it, because if you think about it, I mean, Ghana would have needed to defeat South Africa by 2 clear goals to progress, right? I think giving Ghana that penalty, halfway through the match, giving them still enough time to obviously notch another goal potentially, and later on, I think, I mean, there was an official charge of match fixing a few years back.
They replayed it, yeah.
When Bafana played Senegal. Funny enough, this was a Senegalese referee.
Yes, which is what next door to Ghana, eh?
Yeah, so read into that what you will. But we played Senegal, and it was also World Cup qualifiers, if I remember correctly, and the match was replayed, which we ended up losing. But there's actually a petition going around at the moment to have the match replayed, and I hope Bafana finds some justice.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to find any justice, to be honest. I think SAFA, or not SAFA, the union's going to stick with the referee's decisions and stuff like that. SAFA wants to lay match fixing charges. I'm not sure if they actually have yet, but it's going to be an interesting one to follow. But credit to Bafana, it's another disappointing result, but I mean they played really well, and I felt like they should have qualified.
Yeah, I mean, Ghana were 5 to 10 favourites there, so I think that was a very good performance. I mean, I don't think anyone can disagree that was, that the match should have been a draw. So yeah, good result.
And we're not going to touch on the international qualifiers. I mean, England beating San Marino 10-0. The only shocker there was, I think, Serbia beating Portugal in Lisbon 2-1. So Ronaldo might miss out on his 5th World Cup, which would be a record-breaking World Cup, as I understand it. But yeah, disappointing for them. But let's jump over to another massive result over the weekend, which was in the Brazilian GP, where Hamilton started at the back of the grid and worked his way up. And then when the race time came, he managed to pull off a spectacular win, probably one of the best, up there with one of the best wins of his career.
Oh, definitely. And I remember Rob, you giving me a lot of stick last week saying that
Yes,
Hamilton.
I take that back now. Yeah, that was a performance to watch.
Yeah, that was a classic commentator's curse, I suppose.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, look, to be honest with you, I mean, I'm a Daniel Ricciardo fan. If I don't really, I'm not really a fanboy for particular drivers. I just like the sport. But if you had to say who's my favorite driver, I like Ricciardo just because he's a complete clown. But anyway, but I do respect Hamilton, and I think he's an absolutely incredible driver. And obviously, I mean, I think if any doubters would probably reevaluate their position in terms of him being one of the ultimate best. I mean, he got an engine penalty, which put him right at the back of the grid, number 20. And then he managed to come all the way back to 10th, which is where he obviously started on Sunday. And and ended up winning the race. Obviously, never without controversy. Another Hamilton Verstappen duel, where I think Verstappen did squeeze Hamilton off the track a bit. The stewards decided it was kind of a non-incident, but um, one thing which I thought was quite interesting is that they made that decision without actually looking at Max's onboard camera. So I think that I don't even know how you can make a call like that without
Mm,
looking at the camera
this,
on the.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean that's how you literally see what's happening. So, I mean, it didn't make any difference because on lap 49, Hamilton did overtake Verstappen on using his DRS on the straight, but that time Verstappen had to concede and let him pass. But something really interesting is happening now with the betting. I mean, Verstappen now is only a marginal favorite to win the Drivers' Championship, with Hamilton still 14 points behind. And before this race, Verstappen was odds of 1.2 to win the Drivers' Championship. She literally has gone from 1.2 to 1.87 based
jeez,
on one race. So I think Hamilton's price being shortened this much is a huge overreaction to. I
yeah,
mean, look, obviously an admittedly amazing performance, but 14 points is still a lot of ground to make up. And if you think that if Max wins one of the three remaining races, he'll probably win the title.
yeah,
Just one. I honestly think if he wins one, he's almost a deadlock. Then it's like a 99% chance.
yeah,
So I think that, and in terms of the betting, I honestly think this is a case of bookmakers protecting themselves. They know that people saw that excellent win from Hamilton and are now going to want to back him to win the championship. I think this is not about probability; it's about
mm,
bookmakers predicting the markets and knowing that there's going to be money coming for Hamilton. So I am all over Max Verstappen for the championship now. I think that is a fantastic bet. But yeah, we can talk about that a
yeah.
little
We'll
bit in the
we'll have
future.
a chat about that
Yeah.
when we talk about the Qatar GP in a bit. But let's jump over to some Premier League. The Premier League's going to be back this weekend. We've had the international break. And yeah, it's not too much to talk about with regards to fixtures. Maybe Liverpool, Arsenal. I do
Yeah.
have some value here. Chelsea are taking on Leicester. Chelsea are going to be away for that one. Then we've got United taking on Watford as well, also away. Man City are hosting Everton, should be a comfortable win for them there, and Spurs host Leeds. So, any value you found on this card, Simon? I found a little bit from an accumulator, but
Yeah,
nothing for a
it's
single
it's a
bet.
it's a tough one. Obviously, coming off an international break, which I must say feels longer than 2 weeks to me, and I think it's just
Mm,
because there's been so much sport going on. It kind of feels like so much has happened.
good time for a
You know,
break.
yeah, feels like so much has happened since match day 11. It's crazy. Anyway, but I think the weekend starts off pretty nicely with Leicester hosting Chelsea. I mean, both these teams coming off a draw. But I think Chelsea's obviously was the more surprising because that was that was only a point against Burnley at home. So I mean, obviously, whichever way you look at it, that might be a good bounce back spot for Chelsea. I think the odds look about right there.
Mm.
Um, one match I looked at, which I was quite interested in, was Newcastle and Brentford.
Yes, yes. I have some opinions on that one too, but let's see. You go first.
Yeah, I mean, I can't disagree with the bookies that it looks probably the tightest game on paper. I mean, if you look at the odds, they're pretty much inseparable at about 17-10 each. Um, I mean, but for me, it's just I can't not think of the fact that Newcastle haven't won since beating Norwich 3-0 in early August, and I think Brentford can get a point here. I mean, I
Yeah,
think odds of 9-10 on the draw no bet look good enough for me. Look, Brentford have sort of stuttered a little bit recently, but I mean they're a promoted side. I think Newcastle are not going to turn anything around until they potentially have some new players in January. So I do think you're getting a little bit of value on Brentford here on the draw no bet. So that would be probably my best Premier League bet of the weekend.
Yeah, that's a fancy that I like as well. I don't think Newcastle. I think Newcastle are in a really bad place at the moment. You know, they picked up a few lucky draws, but I think Brentford are gonna give us a good go. I think they're gonna go for all 3 points. You know, against a weak Newcastle side. I like that draw in a bit. I suspect this one's probably going to end in a draw. I just don't see Newcastle picking up a result here. But
Yeah.
with Newcastle, you never know. But that's going to be my bet as well. Is Brentford draw no bet against my side. Then accumulator wise, I do fancy Liverpool to beat Arsenal pretty comfortably. To be honest, I think I'm gonna take that with Man City and Chelsea in an accumulator that's going to pay a shade over 3.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the Liverpool Arsenal game?
Yeah.
Both teams to score overs.
So, well, okay, I think let's start with the match line. I think there are going to be a lot of people who are going to be very tempted to back Arsenal here. I mean, obviously, Arsenal are actually, I mean, they haven't lost a game since they were beaten 5-0 by City in August, late August. So they're on a very, very good run. And they've also kept 3 clean sheets on the bounce too. So, they are playing very well, but I'm not saying that these are necessarily tempting odds on Liverpool. I think it looks about right, but I certainly favour Liverpool here. I mean, that's kind of obvious because they're favourites, but I do think that they're the side to bet on here. I mean, goals wise, I think also. I mean, I'm not so sure that over 2.5 is kind of a certainty. I could easily see Liverpool nicking this one, sort of 1-0. I also wouldn't be too confident in picking something like both teams to score for the same reason. So I don't like the odds on Liverpool particularly, but I certainly fancy them over Arsenal here.
Yeah, I think Arsenal are on this 4-match winning streak, and I think it's like 10 matches unbeaten, or
Yeah.
even longer than that in the Premier League. So they are on quite a nice streak at the moment. However, a lot of the teams that they've played have actually been pretty, kind of also ran sides that are not
Yeah.
great side, with maybe the exception of Leicester, which was
Yes.
a big win for them. But they beat Watford at home. A lot of their matches have been at home as well, and
Yeah.
when they have been on the road, they beat Burnley 1-0. They lost that big one to City, and then they drew with Brighton as in the middle of their streak, and then they managed to pick up a good win at Leicester. So I don't think they're going to get anything out of this match. I think this is going to be a bit one-sided. I like Liverpool for the accumulator. I do also like Liverpool in the handicap here, to be honest. I think Liverpool -1. That's Liverpool to win by 2. I think it's going to be a 2-3-0 win for Liverpool. So the -1 is 2.2. You're not going to get too badly burnt on that price.
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing. If I agree with you. I think that Liverpool could easily get a clean sheet here, and whenever a team's getting a clean sheet, obviously the overs is a bit risky because then for over 2.5 you need a the home team to score 3 goals at least. So I would be very wary of backing, assuming there's going to be goals in this game, because I think that Liverpool might keep it quite tight.
Right, I don't think there's too much else to look at. I'm going to see how the weekend results go. I do fancy Spurs to pick up a win against Leeds, but I'm not going to be backing that. Spurs are also just a bit of a mess at the moment. So the thing that they got going for them there is the home advantage. I think there might be some value to be had in the Wolves versus West Ham game. West Ham away from home. I do fancy West Ham there on a draw and a bet as well. It's a little bit short at 1.72, but that is one to consider for the weekend. But that's pretty much everything that I've got for the Premier League. Should we move over to some rugby?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, we've got South Africa taking on England. That's going to be probably the best clash of the tour. England are actually underdogs here. I thought they were going to be slight favourites. South Africa are slight favourites here, 1.92. England at 2.02 over on Betway. I think those odds are wrong, to be honest. Not that they're wrong on Betway. I think South Africa is getting a little bit too much credit here.
Yeah. So I mean, let's elephant in the room. I mean, I'm not quite sure where Betway have priced this quite strangely. I must be honest, I haven't looked on other books yet, but I'm quite surprised at how little margin there is there. I mean, you're getting a very nice price on both sides, and the draw is also nearly 22-1. So, I was quite interested to see that, because normally when you have a pick'em, as they call it in America, you have 9 to 10 on each side. So, getting very nice odds. And I must say, I haven't compared it to other books yet, but when I saw that the draw was also a decent price, I was quite surprised there. Yeah, I think. I mean, I tend to. I'm leaning your side too. I think that. I think the home advantage. Look, this game is going to come down to, you know, one or two kicks, like an on-field decision, a bounce of the ball, which favors one side. I just think it's a very, very, very tricky one to call. But I think that my gut tells me England's probably the right bet because they're playing at home and in front of a full stadium. But
And they've got a nice revenge story as well. They've had two
sure, of
years to
course,
prepare for this.
absolutely. I mean, look, I think that, look, let's not forget. I mean, South Africa, I think, have actually evolved quite a lot since the World Cup, and I think that we were quite a one-dimensional team in the World Cup, despite winning it. I think that we have. I mean, despite we had those two losses in the Rugby Championship against Australia, and I think that we really, we came out of those games and we really, really sorted ourselves out. I think that our game it's harder to beat now. So. But that said, I think it's difficult for me to make a case for South Africa as even marginal favourites away from home against England.
Yeah.
It's a tough one. So yeah, I think my gut tells me England, but I can't make a strong case for either side. I think the bookmakers have got this pretty spot on. I think. Yeah, I mean, there's so much also that's just changed in the world of rugby. With officiating coming under the spotlight with Rassie Erasmus and all his antics, and it's just rugby is an interesting place, and I think that this match will really be kind of a culmination of that. So, I think this is one for me, not to bet, but I think it's going to be a fascinating game.
I really fancy England here. I think the Box, they've in their last couple of performances, they've been good performances, but they haven't been world-beating performances. They've played well. I mean, look at it. You can look at who we've played recently. It's been Wales and Scotland, and look, Wales are pretty tough at home. We didn't smash those sides. I think England's going to be a tougher proposition than either of those, especially at Twickenham. Eddie Jones is going to be really wanting to get one over Rassie in this one too.
Yeah.
So that price on Betway is actually really good. I looked over on Sporting Bet and they won. The odds are basically flipped. They've got England at 1.91. So I'm going to take that 2.0, 2.02. The price is so good. Actually, I fancy England on a handicap here. I don't want to take too much of a handicap, but
Yeah.
I'm looking here at -5.5, which is 2.89. Might be a little bit high, maybe -3.5 if I can get it, -4.5. I think that's where I'm going to go with this one. I'm going to take a bet on England,
Yeah.
and I'm going to take a bet on the handicap. I just think they're going to beat us in this one. We due a tough game against strong opposition. I think they're just going to have a bit too much for us. Not to take anything away from the Box, who've been spectacular recently. But
Sure, but I mean, look,
yeah.
you got to look at England's form too. Though they haven't faltered either. I mean, it's not like look, South Africa have been playing really well, but I mean, England have been absolutely fine too. So, I think it's obviously, as you say, there are some factors as well, which kind of, I mean, two of the factors I suppose which count in England's favour are the revenge factor of the World Cup and also the home ground factor. So, I think that we're going to have to be like, 100 out of 100 to beat them. And we might well be 100 out of 100, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think it's also the last fixture of the tour. So, I can't look past England. I really hope the Box do win. There's nothing that makes me happier than the Box beating England. But yeah, I'm not sure it's going to happen. But hopefully it's going to be a cracking game. I'm really looking forward to that one. It's at 5:15 on November the 20th. And then, Simon, we've got some other matches going on in the rugby union for the international
Wales,
friendlies. Anything that
Wales, Australia, and France, New Zealand. Yeah, I haven't really looked into those into any detail. I mean, they do look like good fixtures there. I mean, do you have any thoughts on those ones?
No, not really. Wales against Australia. I do fancy Wales to pick up a win there, but that 1.6 is just a bit short. I'd prefer that to be a bit closer to like 1.7, 1.8. France, New Zealand. France are not playing too well at the moment. I fancy New Zealand there as well. I think that's going to be quite a high scoring game, France and New Zealand. I haven't seen any prices out for totals.
Yeah,
but I
those will
do
come
fancy
later, yeah.
overs if they are released. I'm not sure what the line's going to be. I don't want to make an uneducated call on it, but whatever the line's going to be, if it's not too high, I think I'll go overs with that one. Those are my thoughts for the rugby. Then there's some Grand Prix again this weekend, Simon. We've got the Qatar GP.
Yeah, this is the first race. When I say the first race, I mean the first race in Qatar. They've never hosted before. So it's a track called Losail, which is on the outskirts of Doha, which is the capital city. It was actually built for MotoGP. There was an event in 2004. I can't recall the name of the event, but it's actually so it originally is it's actually a motorbiking track rather than an F1 track, which means it's got a lot of high speed corners. Which should be pretty cool. I mean, I think that'll make for an exciting race. There's also one huge straight of about a kilometer, where DRS will definitely get used. If anyone doesn't know what DRS is, it's a drag reduction system that people, you can activate it in certain parts of the track, which increases your speed. It basically increases your slipstream. So it'll also provide lots of opportunities for overtaking, I think, on this track. So I'm looking forward to it. It should be a good race. But I mean, most importantly, almost to my biggest surprise, the bookies have done like a full 180 on their expectations of where this sort of championship's going to go. I mean, Hamilton's getting all the love now. And I must say, I can't agree with their assumption just because Hamilton, raced out of his socks last week. I don't think he's necessarily going to win all three races. I think this pricing has a lot to do, as I said, with the bookmakers, where they're expecting the money to come rather than actual probabilities. Because obviously, they know that everyone saw Hamilton sort of race his best race of the season. I mean, one of his best races ever, probably. And they're now expecting the punters to pile in on him. So I think, and I think that, the people have very short memories. And I must say, I can't see. I think they should be priced exactly the same. If anything, honestly, I
Yeah,
can't see.
it's been a pick 'em for the last
Yeah,
like 5-6 races between them.
exactly. I mean,
And yeah,
maybe.
you bring up a good point. And look, I'm not sure how the track's gonna benefit, or how it plays to Hamilton's strengths or maybe Verstappen's weaknesses. That's maybe a bit more nuanced.
I mean, it's going to be a very fast track, lots of straights. Look, I mean, I think it's so difficult to say which car is faster right now. I mean, it really is. So, that would basically be the deciding factor, because if there's more straights, basically the faster car generally have I'm talking about a 0.2% edge. It's like, I mean, I think F1 next to golf has probably got the finest margins of like any sport. So I think that it would probably go. I mean, it's hard to say who that would favor, but I mean, I'm very happy to back Verstappen at 15-10.
It's a good
And
price.
as I said, the drivers' championship now at 1.87 from 1.2 last week. He came second. It's not like he
Yeah,
messed
it's
up.
not like
Like,
he dropped a ton of points.
no, he came second. As I said, I think if he wins one more race, and it doesn't have to be this one, it could be the next 2 weeks, or the next two races either. If he wins one of them, I think it's going to be very, very difficult for Hamilton to win. So I just think that this is a complete overreaction. But speaking of which, we did actually win our Grand Prix bet last week. We took Valtteri Bottas, for a podium, and he was actually lower in the betting than Perez. So we got a nice 14-10 winner there, which is exciting. But yeah, I think you can't look past Verstappen here as a value bet. Just forget everything you saw last week and just back, somebody who was expected to win the drivers' championship by a mile last week at 15-10. Like, it's a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have a bet in that one as well. But yeah, hopefully it's going to be a good race, and we might see kind of a champion elect crowned if that's the case. I was looking at the outright odds, and they've got them at 1.87 for Verstappen and 1.92 for Hamilton. So yeah, should be an interesting kind of last few races of the season. But yeah, guys, that pretty much wraps up today's episode. I hope you guys found some like a bits among our discussions. I really fancy England in the rugby, as well as Liverpool to win that match. I think I might pop those two in a double as well. I'm not going to be placing any bets on the account today. I'll save that for next week once I've actually managed to top up the account. But yeah, guys, thanks for tuning into this episode, and we'll catch you in the next one. Have a good one, guys. Cheers.